What's up, nerds? Welcome back. I know I've been gone for a while, but kids, life is hard. Dealing with other people is hard. So that's as much as I'm going to say about it. Let's talk about something that's easy, like comics, like Robin's number two. So, if you will recall, and if you can, it is on the cover of the book itself. This was the winner of the round robin. Get it, Robin. Well, that wasn't the reason why they called it round robin, but well, look how that worked out. Anyway, yeah, this is the winner of the round robin thing that DC did on Twitter, where they had people vote for what story they wanted to see. And as we've seen from other stories in the past, whenever the readers get to choose, sometimes things that are kind of wonky end up happening. So we get this story about all the Robins coming together. They have to because they are assaulted by the first Robin. No, not Dick Grayson. Nice try. Don't forget, DC likes to subvert. So they've created this brand new character that nobody's ever seen and or heard of, and is saying, yeah, that's the very first Robin, and she has a problem. Yes, I said she. So let's keep going with this. If you were reading the first issue, or if you watched my video reviewing the first issue, you will know that all the Robins came together to talk about how being Robin affected them. I'm not kidding. So they came together to do that. And while they were there, all of a sudden, like, this old guy busted in, talking about how he got away. He managed to escape from some people who like knew who they were and shit like that. And then he mentioned a bunch of names that corresponded with all of the Robins, like first gauntlets, and he himself was actually Dick Grayson's first gauntlet. The first time that they have to like prove themselves as though they were ready to be like heroes under Batman's tutelage. And then he got shot in the head while he was talking to them and shit. So it's just kind of recapping that. And basically what we come to find out is they're recapping all of this to Batman himself. And so they're talking about, like, yeah, we went and like searched the rooftops and everything, but we weren't able to find anybody. And then they found out that apparently when they got to like ground level, that Dick Grayson told them, like, the assassin knew in Bloodhaven there's always a rush of churchgoers either asking God to bless their day at the casinos or asking for forgiveness for what they did the night before, because it's a Sunday. So anyway, we see where, yeah, she got away. She blended into the crowd, apparently, even though she's dressed like this. And then she kind of just went about her way. So they're kind of standing here talking to Batman about it. And they're saying Dick had to stay behind. Obviously, there was a dead body in his place. So they're saying he did still have friends, like, on the police force, but it's a dead body. So, there's still some explaining that needs to go on, even though you have friends. So they did all of that, and they're saying, like, fortunately, Delcane's status as an escaped convict isn't going to put him at the top of BPD's caseload. So Damien is here saying, like, well, that means we have to investigate this insult into the Robin mantle. So I think it's Tim. Yeah, Tim is the one who's saying, like, well, I'm less worried about the insult and more so like how much they know about these kidnap victims and how they're connected to us, because basically they've kidnapped all of the villains that were the Robin's first gauntlets. So Jason is saying, like, yeah, somebody's messing with our past and shit. But Tim is basically here because they're basically here to say, like, we need more information from the Bat computer, obviously. So Tim is trying to say, like, we just need you to give us, permission to get, like, or access back into the Bat computer so that we can do more research. And he's saying, if you can just give me back access to the Bat computer. And of course, Bruce is like, no, not gonna happen. And then they try to reason with him, but he says, my network was breached, despite the advanced nature of my security protocols. This could have been happening for days or weeks. I don't know how far the attacker got, or what they walked away with. I know this kidnapping case looks personal, but as a Justice Leaguer, I count among my enemies everyone from Prometheus to Brainiac. For now, I need you to promise me you won't pursue this further until I can secure everything. Until I know what or who has been compromised. And then he gets right in Tim's face and he's like, and I need to hear it from you, Tim, because I know that Jason and Damien will just lie through their teeth. So he's like, but he gets saved because all of a sudden Dick is sliding down the pole into the Bat cave. I know it's from the Batman 66 shit, but it's still so funny. Anyway, so he's coming down. He's like, okay, well, how about a promise from me? I promise we won't break into your systems. We won't use any of your stuff. I promise. We'll even steer clear of the group chats and Zooms and whatever else the kids use these days. Also, we'll lie as low as a group that contains a former circus performer and three guys in red tights can, right, bros? And I know that like Red Hood is called Red Hood, but his costume isn't really red, just his helmet, and that's not really tights. So I get the joke, but still at the same time I was just like, three guys in red tight, whatever. So Batman is telling him like, all right, cool. So he's like saying, I'm gonna go to the meet with the Justice League. I have to go meet Cyborg to see like if this attack on my systems actually affected like the Justice League systems as well. And he's saying like, I'll check back in with y'all soon. But then all of a sudden, as he's teleporting, really, he says, wait a minute. Why were all of you together to begin with? And then before any of them can answer, he gets teleported out. So they're kind of standing there and saying like, what's the matter with you, Grayson? Like we needed access to his back computer for more like help on the case. And then Tim is saying, like, I'll admit, I'm really unsure of your strategy here, Dick. To which he says, I'll meet you guys back in the back delivery bay. Stephanie's waiting. We're taking the spoiler mobile. It's the only vehicle we have between us that Bruce can't track. So that's where we go back over to the villain, Robin, or I guess Robin. I don't. That's the only name we've been given for her so far. Anyway, so she's there talking to all of these like lackeys and shit, and saying like, "All right, yeah, you did a good job." But they're like, "But wait, we let that guy Del Kane go. Like, well, they didn't let him go, but he escaped us. We would expect because she's saying like it was part of the deal. We're gonna go. I'm gonna go ahead and pay y'all what we agreed on." And they're saying like, "Wait a minute, but we let the guy." He got away from us. So we were kind of expecting to be reprimanded, that you were going to cuss us out, maybe possibly dip us in boiling acid or some shit like that. So she's saying, like, all your inept bunglery has done is move up the timeline. Now, come get your payment, you pathetic little leeches. So we can just kind of see them all bent over, like, doing this thing where they're just, I don't even know what it is they're doing. I mean, they could be snorting cocaine. Kids like cocaine nowadays, right? Yes? Kids like the cocaine? I don't know. Anyway, so she's sitting there saying, like, I've got some light reading to do. And then she tells the computer to open files, gauntlets. So this is where we go back over to the Robins. They're getting to the spoiler mobile. They're like, I think it's maybe Damien. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's Damien who's like, spoiler mobile? This is just a glorified, like, minivan and shit. And she's like, well, yeah, I don't think all of y'all would fit on the back of my bike, so we're gonna have to take the van and shit. So they get ready to take off. And they have Grayson here with his long hair, which he hasn't had in a while. Like, even in the ongoing Nightwing series right now, he has short hair. So I don't know why they gave him the long hair again. I don't hate it. I don't hate that guys have long hair. I used to want long hair myself, and who knows, maybe someday it'll happen again. But the thing is, because I used to have it. Anyway, so the thing is, they gave him the long hair again, but they're making it very, it looks like a Pantene commercial. You know what I mean? Anyway, so he's saying, like, I could read it on Bruce. Even in the mask, something scared him. And when he gets scared, he gets angry. If our job is to keep Batman from falling into the darkness, he needs our help on this, whether he knows it or not. This is about trust. It always is. Always. So this is where we start to see, they kind of like intersperse these stories in there, kind of like about the, it's a one-page thing about like the gauntlet of each of the Robins. So of course I started with Dick Grayson saying like, basically, if you know anything about the gauntlet, it's where Batman kind of challenges them, spend a whole night without me to back you up, and I'm even going to be pursuing you in the shadows and shit, just to see, like, can you actually survive out there on the streets and shit. So it says, initially conceived of as a final test, I gave Robin the task of evading me on a night in Gotham City for 6 hours. In the midst of this, Robin witnessed a gangland murder perpetrated by a group of enforcers led by Lou Del Kane. Robin then engaged, alone. Robin came into possession of evidence that made him the target of boss Joe Minette. Robin was determined to stay in the game and did not call me, instead leaving clues behind to help me solve the case. Robin's evidence led to the indictment of Del Kane and the dismantling of the Minette organization. Assessment, Robin is dutiful and obedient, but will always choose his heart over the letter of the law. Pass. So that's where we go back over to the team in like the van and shit like that. And so basically they have this one clue that has just like pieces of words. And he's saying like, I can make out 2 words, steamer and beer. So I think it's Damien who's like, beer is German for beer. He's like, okay, yeah, thanks. That was a really tough one to figure out. So Spoiler says, focus, what are we looking for? A bar, a brewery? They're like kind of talking about it back and forth, and I think it's Tim who says, I'm not legal age. Is Steamer a brand? But Dick says, with all the craft stuff around, it could. And this is where Jason just intercuts because apparently he already figured out. He's like, ugh. He says, steamer means stolen, and a beer is the part of a hearse that contains the coffin. So He just kind of goes on to explain to them, used to be this mortuary in Gotham that also acted as a chop shop, specialized in hard to find specialty items. Before they got busted, they'd give you a decent price for a good steamer beer, so stolen hearse that are part of the hearse that contains like the coffin. He says, "Ask me how I know." But none of them ask him how he knows. So this is where we go over to the next gauntlet, which was Jason's, and he's kind of talking about like what was his name, Felipe, yeah, Felipe Garzonas, and how he basically like assaulted this woman. He showed up like when the girl was just like, kind of out of it. She was very much distraught. And then it says, we discovered Garzones was the son of Jose Garzones, ambassador from Bogotá. Jose made calls and all charges were dropped against Felipe. We attempted to ensnare Felipe via legal means. In the meantime, he threatened Gloria to the point that out of desperate fear, she committed suicide. Robin confronted Felipe on his balcony, from which Felipe fell to his death. Robin insisted it was an accident. Evidence to contrary, unsupported. Assessment: despite new circumstances, Robin's view of everything, especially justice, is informed by his experience on the streets. I suspect this will alternately be an asset and a problem. Pass. So this is where we go back over to the Robins, where they're busting into the cemetery, right? So they're just kind of walking through, kind of like trying to, find what they're looking for. And as they're walking, all of a sudden Tim starts talking to Spoiler, asking her like, "So, how are you?" and everything like that. And she says, "Yeah, I'm great." And he says, "Come on, we used to be pretty close. I can still tell when you're distracted." We used to be pretty y'all dated. And she even tells him, "Tim, we're the only Robins who used to date. Let's not make it weird." So, as I've mentioned before in the comments on some of my other videos, they make no reference to Tim being bisexual in anything else except for Batman Urban Legends, the anthology series. So, make of that what you will. Anyway, so he's saying, like, then consider a professional concern. I need your head in the game or whatever. She's like, all right, fine. I keep thinking of that girl from this morning, the one from the Devotees of Anarchy who tried to blow up City Hall, the neophyte. And that's from, like, the first issue and shit where they were taking them down. And she's saying, like, I reached out my hand to her. I was trying to help her. And it seemed like she was going to take my help and actually, turn her life around possibly. But then all of a sudden something happened where even she looked surprised by what she said. And what she said was only anarchy is truth. So she says she was gone, absorbed into Mr. Neg's lie. I just can't figure out how that can happen. So Tim is telling her, like, the DOA recruits the most susceptible by giving hate a friendly face. I mean, it started out as a group on a puppy larceny message board. Oh, God. So, yeah, if you're starting to see, like, are they talking about, like, real-world things in a cheeky comic book way? Yeah, that's absolutely what they're doing. So she's saying, like, wait, Puppy Larceny, that goofy video game from the weird tech guy, Cormac Dodge or whatever? It was about dogs who steal cars. That's not... whatever. So he's saying, yep, sometimes it's pretty amazing what bored, lonely kids will lose themselves in. Anyway, we go over to the next gauntlet, which was obviously Tim's, and it's kind of like giving the recap about how Tim became a Robin because he was able to put together, like, Bruce Wayne, and then also seeing some of the moves that Dick had done, like, he just kind of pieced together, like, that's obviously the same kid, so they must be Batman and Robin. Anyway, he's saying, like, after the loss of Jason, Tim believed I needed a Robin and volunteered to train, despite the impact to his life and the suspicions of his parents. Tim's parents were eventually kidnapped and poisoned by Mackinson Innocente, a crime lord known as the Obeah Man. Jack Drake was paralyzed. Janet Drake died. I was able to capture Innocente and extradite him to an American prison for his crimes. When I was imprisoned by the Scarecrow, it was Tim's fear he'd lose me as well that led him to rescue me and defeat Crane by himself. Assessment: the look in Tim's eyes when he used his rage at Innocente to overcome fear indicated that moment was the first time he recognized this was no game. He was no longer a child. Pass. So they go back over to the Robins yet again because they're looking around, and then all of a sudden this trap is sprung and Stephanie almost dies, but Damian manages to, like, tackle her out of the way and shit. So Dick all of a sudden, like, raises the arm like, all right, everybody look out, we have like traps to look out for. And it's Damian who's like, well, yeah, of course we do. And of course the one who had spring the first one was Spoiler because she didn't get the same training that we do. So, of course, she has to do her whole little, like, thing of, like, oh, I see how it is. Nightwing breaks rules and everyone cheers, but I do, and it's all time to go home stuff. Well, considering that you just died, and nothing that Nightwing has done so far has gotten y'all to almost die, she says, kind of a double standard, isn't it? Again, see my previous comment. So, this is where we go over to her gauntlet, and it's just kind of, like, talking about how, yeah, when, Tim basically stopped being Robin because his like dad wouldn't allow him to do it anymore. She kind of like stepped in and demanded to be Robin. And on her first mission out, she confronted an assassin named Ma'at Shahid, aka Scarab, targeted suspected Robins. Robin and I went after her together. Scarab was relentless and armored. I warned Robin to stay back. Instead, she saved my life. She disobeyed orders gleefully. Assessment. It's not so much that Stephanie quickly broke the rules, it's that her actions brought into sharp focus the difference between her and the other Robins. She isn't getting revenge for her parents, she's getting revenge on one of them. Because if you remember, Stephanie is the son of Cluemaster. So that's where he's basically saying, yeah, she failed. She's not cut out for this. So they finally come to like the compound where all of the other three are like being held and shit. Like they're literally just tied to chairs. So they're there and they say all of the kidnapped victims from our gauntlets are accounted for. Mine is Mr. Delcane because, well, you know. So they're kind of like trying to figure out. And spoiler, or Stephanie says like, why doesn't Damien have someone in that garage? So this is where Tim is like, oh right, you never had access to the files that came after you. It's simple, spoiler. Damien's gauntlet was me. Because, yeah, if you will remember, and I've talked about this before in one of my live streams, someone in the chat tried to argue with me and be like, no, he didn't beat the shit out of him. He just, you know, he kind of like disrespected him. No. It went further than that. You don't end up the way that Tim does without getting your ass beat. Guaranteed. So this is where we go over to Damien's gauntlet and basically talking about like when he came and found out, you know, his dad was Batman, he basically showed up and just demanded to be Robin. So Tim, of course, being Tim, was trying to be friendly with him and like welcome him in and shit. And this is how Damien left him. Go ahead and drink that in. Does that not look like he got his ass beat? He's laying on his back, surrounded by shattered glass, blood coming out of his face. What would you call that? Anyway, so he's saying, while I was away, Damien attacked Robin. I had no plan to test him, but he demanded it. Assessment. In that moment, his every instinct must have been screaming for him to finish the job, to end his rival's life. He didn't. The questions this inadvertently raises, was that a moment of mercy, or a strategy for infiltration? Incomplete. So he doesn't really get a pass or a fail, he gets an I. So, and then all of a sudden they see like, uh-oh, we have visitors, some people showed up, and it's all the kids from earlier, like all of these like, oh god, let's get into it. So they're saying, because they're asking like, Dick, do you recognize who they are? And he's like, heaven help me, I do. He says it's Giggles and Guffaw, Kitten, Chick, Honeysuckle, the junior super criminals. Back when I first started out as Robin, they were sidekicks to supervillains. Totally awful, useless sidekicks. So Jason's just like, all right, that's all I needed to know. So he immediately just charges in and is like, hey, I'm about to come up and kick y'all's ass and shit. So he comes up and he says, you all just walked into a real bad hood. So they all charge forward and start fighting and shit. And basically, Nightwing is telling them, like, all right, the mission is, because they suck so much, protect them from Red Hood, because he's about to fucking kill them, probably. Anyway, so Jason's telling them, like, you half-assed henchmen want to dig through my past? So he starts fighting with them and shit. And then there's this part where, hold on. I think, do you see it on the page before? Yeah. So look at this one named Honeysuckle. You can tell which one she is, because she kind of looks like Poison Ivy. You can tell what she's wearing, right? You can tell how high-cut, like, basically those are like panties that she's wearing. Let's just be honest. But they don't show her, she's not wearing a thong, right? So that's why it kind of makes it a little bit awkward when Spoiler tells her, like, say what you will about Poison Ivy, at least she doesn't show her whole ass. So this is where Honeysuckle's like, well, when it comes to teen boys, never underestimate the distracting beauty of nature. So she goes up and kicks her in the face and shit. And then we see where Chick is down, and Nightwing is basically telling him, like, all right, yeah, you need to stay down. The only reason you're still in one piece is because Red Hood got distracted. And then we see in the back where Tim is fighting against Kitten, and she does, like, the whole, like, meowing thing at him. He's like, I've seen enough of Batman dealing with Catwoman to not have the whole cat thing, like, really distract me and shit like that. So this is where Red Hood goes after Giggles and Guffaw, who are very obviously inspired by the Joker, and he's like, oh, great, clowns. I hate clowns. So Nightwing tries to stop him, but he like follows them into this room and shit, or into this building. And then as he's walking in, he's like, yeah, y'all really shouldn't have like come out here like this. He says, I'll show you Joker loving creeps, because he's basically saying, I'm going to show you what it is that he did to me. So they say, like, it's true, we have great affection for the clown prince. We did everything we could to be close to him, endured things to hear his laugh. And then the other one says, you must get it. sometimes you love someone so much you just want to become them. So we see where they put on this, like, well, they inject themselves with something that apparently starts turning them into the Joker. So that's where they're going to do that, and that's actually where this issue leaves off. So I guess we'll see what comes from that, possibly. I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to keep reading this series. It's just not. It's okay. It has parts of it that is like, it's all right, but it doesn't really like grab my attention like that, where I'm just like so excited to see what's going to happen next. It's just a subpar kind of mediocre type of story. So I mean, I don't really have a whole lot to say about it. I mean, the characterizations, the exchanges between the Robins, I guess, is entertaining enough, but at the same time it's like this is definitely a story that we could have done without. You could absolutely not read this story and not be missing out on anything. So I mean, read it if you really like the Robins that much. Yeah, then I could see why you would want to. But other than that, it doesn't really connect to anything all that much. Yeah, there are some parts where like Batman talking about like my systems were like hacked and all that shit. So it kind of has some little threads to like the main continuity or whatever, but not a whole lot. Honestly, not a lot. That's why I'm saying you could definitely leave this behind and not be missing out on anything important. But I guess if you're the type of person who, like I said, just enjoys reading about the Robins, this will probably be for you. So feel free to check it out if you want. But I think that's going to do it for me on this review. So if you enjoyed the video, then definitely make sure to like the video, make sure you're subscribed, hit the notification bell. That way you know when I have new content coming out for you. And if you'd like to share this video, hey, you know how much I do appreciate that. But if you're done here, then go and read a book. And if not, then I'll see you on my next video.